It's not completely correct, but it will do as a picture for you, all right? Now, this key that enters into the mouth, of course, it's not a perfect fit, so you can change a finger or two and it will still go in. And this is the difference between coronaviruses and influenza virus. Influenza are flu viruses, the real flu, all right, which has really caused pandemics because flu viruses can completely change the whole hand so that the hand looks like this suddenly. Okay? And then your antibodies don't fit into that. But this is something that the coronaviruses can never do. They can't. And so they can only change the shape of the fingers. And that's not enough to fool the immune system. It's that simple. And this applies to all the variants. So forget it if someone tells you that you are not immune against the variants. The fact is, of course, that the immune system doesn't splurge. It keeps its antibodies in a locker, just like you have money on a bank. You don't go around throwing your money out of your pockets. You get the money out of the bank when you need it. And that's what happens to the immune system. And wonderfully enough, another publication coming from Denmark, another one, showed that true infections with this SARS-CoV-2 do exactly the same, meaning that everyone who has had an infection, even if he's asymptomatic, no symptoms, the virus just gets into your throat, multiplies a bit, and gets thrown out again. But even then, the immune system responds by making IgG and IgA antibodies, meaning that you have the money on the back. This means, dear fellow citizens, that the herd immunity is already present, but kept under lock and key, like a treasure. But it can be mobilized at any time you want. And it's just, this is like a dog and his master. The dog, this is the immune system. The master, in this case, would be the virus, all right? So the moment the virus comes near to the house, gets back, the dog senses that the virus is coming, begins wagging his tail, begins barking, throwing out the antibodies to say hello to the master. So, you see, this virus always first enters through the front door, goes into your throat, and it takes days to multiply. It takes days to multiply. And if it multiplies in your throat, it doesn't matter. It only kills you if it gets to your lungs. But now we know that this is enough time for you and me or anyone, because the Danes showed that over 99% of all people running around have this treasure in their trove. They have the treasure. And they could mobilize the IgG and IgA antibodies even when the virus was only in the throat. Now, isn't this a piece of wonderful news? I think it causes us to realize that we can cast the dread of this pandemic away and return to a wonderful world. Return to our friends, our beloved ones. Join hands with them and rejoice. The pandemic, as it were, is not existent as a mortally dangerous new disease. Now, the second piece of news I have for you is that this will not only cause vaccination to be unnecessary, but also says if the vaccination carries any danger whatsoever, it must be stopped. Because there is no benefit, and if it only contains danger, then it is the duty of the doctors and the authorities not to undertake vaccination. Now, let me tell you something very, very alarming. So alarming that this piece of news is just as important as the good piece of news. And this comes also from the publications that have just appeared. So we'll go back to this chart here. And I told you, they vaccinated, they found that the IgG and IgA antibodies came immediately. Then they waited for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then they gave the people a second shot. What did they see? They saw that the IgG and IgA levels immediately continued to rise, which is what a booster is supposed to do. However, now listen very carefully. Look at this. This is a vessel wall. This is your blood. It is now known that the genes that are injected into your body will enter the bloodstream, and it is absolutely certain now that these genes are going to enter the cells that line the vessel wall, because these are the cells that they contact. Now, what happens when the cells that line the vessel walls begin to produce these spikes? The spikes will then be produced by the cell and protrude from the cell surface into the bloodstream. All right? Now, these cells are going to be recognized by your lymphocytes that are born or given to you by the dear Lord to kill those cells that are making the virus or the virus protein, any virus protein. So these lymphocytes are going to mount the attack on your vessel walls. This is the first way towards clot formation that, as we know, is happening all over the place, all over the world. Now, at the beginning, after the first vaccination, this danger is bad and is already terrible in itself if your killer lymphocytes start trying to kill you. But at that time, during the first 7 to 10 days, there are still no antibodies. There are not yet any antibodies. However, after 3 or 4 weeks, there are masses of antibodies all over the place in your blood. And if you dare to repeat this performance and start to put those spikes out into your blood, God help you. Because now, not only the killer lymphocytes are going to attack, antibodies and complement and leukocytes are also going to attack, thinking that your cells that are producing these spikes are bacteria. And they are going to try to eat your vessel wall cells. Now, this attack of the Air Force and the Navy on a single cell target has never been seen before. There is no situation, because either you're combating a virus or you're combating a bacteria. Mixed infections that go through the body are actually virtually unknown. So we have the unique situation that has been created by the vaccination that is, in a way, extremely interesting, because no one knows what the outcome will be. However, the vision is so horrible and so awful and terrifying that I myself don't really want to know the answer, and I don't want this answer to become known. I want you to decide to not take the second shot. Not only the second shot, but any shot thereafter is going to place your life in danger. That is what I'm convinced of now, especially because of the publications that have just appeared. So, I think that was the most important thing I have to say today, and I hope people will sit down, look at these papers, talk about them, and I hope that my colleagues, physicians and scientists, will do the same and get together to see whether this may have a grain of truth. Because if it does, the consequences are absolutely endless. Or the consequences are very simple. We just have to stop everything now.